Well, all right. It is that time again for a Grimm's complete of fairy tales. So, how about we set the tone here? Move that away a bit. Oh, yeah. Let me bring the microphone back here. And we're going to get started with a little reading of where my story here. The Singing a Bone. That's right. Let's get started. A certain country was greatly troubled by a wild boar that attacked workers in the fields, killed men, and tore them to pieces with its terrible tusks. The king of the country had offered rich rewards to anyone who would rid the land of this terror. But the beast was so huge and ferocious that no man could even be persuaded to enter the forest where the animal made its home. At last the king made a proclamation that he would give his only daughter in marriage to any man who would bring the wild boar to him dead or alive. There lived two brothers in that country, the sons of a poor man, who gave notice to their readiness to enter on the perilous undertaking. The elder, who was clever and crafty, was influenced by the pride. The younger, who was innocent and simple, offered himself from kindness of the heart. Thereupon the king advised that as the best and safest way would be to take opposite directions in the wood, the elder was to go in the evening and the younger in the morning. The younger had not gone far when a little fairy stepped up to him. He held in his hand a black spear and said, "I will give you this spear because your heart is innocent and good. With this you can go out and discover the wild boar, and he shall not be able to harm you." He thanked the little man, took the spear, placed it on his shoulder, and without delay went further into the forest. It was not long before he espied the animal coming toward him and fiercely making ready to spring. But the youth stood still and held the spear firmly in front of him. In wild rage, the fierce beast ran violently toward him and was met by the spear, on the point of which he threw himself, and as it pierced his heart, he fell dead. Then the younger took the dead monster on his shoulder and went to find his brother. As he approached the other side of the wood, there stood a large hall, and he heard music and found a number of people dancing, drinking wine, and making merry. His elder brother was among them, for he thought the wild boar would not run far away, and he wished to get up his courage for the evening by cheerful company and wine. When he caught sight of his younger brother coming out of the forest laden with his booty, the most restless jealousy and malice rose in his heart. But he disguised his bitter feelings and spoke kindly to his brother and said, "Come in and stay with us, dear brother, and rest a while, get your strength up by a cup of wine." So the youth, not suspecting anything wrong, carried the dead boar into his brother's house, and told him the little man he had met in the wood, and had given him the spear, and how he had killed the wild animal. The elder brother persuaded him to stay and rest till evening, and then they went out together in twilight and walked by the river till it became quite dark. A little bridge lay across the river which they had to pass, and the elder brother let the young one go before him. When they arrived at the middle of the stream, the wicked man gave his younger brother a blow from behind, and he fell down dead instantly. But fearing he might not be quite dead, he threw the body over the bridge into the river, and though the clear waters saw it sink into the sand. After this wicked deed he ran home quickly, took the dead boar on his shoulders, and carried it to the king, with the pretense that he had killed the animal, and that therefore he could claim rather the princess as his wife, according to the king's promise. But these dark deeds are not often concealed, for something happens to bring them to light. Not many years after, a herdsman passing over the bridge with his flock saw beneath him in the sand a little bone as white as snow, and thought it would make a very nice mouthpiece for his horn. As soon as the flock passed over the bridge, he waded into the middle of the stream, for the water was very shallow, took up the bone, and carried it home to make a mouthpiece for his horn. But the first time he blew the horn after the bone was in it, it filled the herdsman with wonder and amazement, for it began to sing itself, and these were the words it sang. "Oh, dear shepherd, you are blowing your horn with one of my bones, which night and morn lie still unburied beneath the wave, where I was thrown in a sandy grave. I killed the wild boar, and my brother slew me, and gained the princess by pretending 'twas he." "Oh, what a wonderful horn," said the shepherd, "that can sing of itself. I must certainly take it to my lord the king." As soon as the horn was brought before the king and blown by the shepherd, it once again began to sing the same song and the same words. The king was first surprised, but his suspicion being aroused, he ordered the sand under the bridge should be examined immediately. And then the entire skeleton of the murdered man was discovered, and the whole wicked came to light. The wicked brother could not deny the deed, for he was therefore ordered to be tied in a sack and drowned, while the remains of his murdered brother were carefully carried to the churchyard and laid to rest in a beautiful grave. All right, and that has been The Singing Bone. And let's read us another one that ain't too terribly long. We'll round out this telling of Grimm's complete fairy tales for this evening. And we start with Simeli Mountain, spelled Simeli. There were once two brothers, again. The rich one, the other poor. The one rich, the other poor, rather. The rich one, however, gave nothing to the poor one, and he gained a scanty living by trading in corn, and often did so badly that he had no bread for his wife and children. Once when he was wheeling a barrow through a forest, he saw on one side of him a great bare, naked-looking mountain, and as he had never seen it before, he stood still and stared at it with amazement. While he was thus standing, he saw 12 great wild men coming towards him, and as he believed they were robbers, he pushed his barrow into the thicket, climbed up a tree, and waited to see what would happen. The 12 men, however, went to the mountain and cried, Simeli Mountain, open." And immediately the barren mountain opened down the middle, and the 12 went in. And as soon as they were within, it shut. After a short time, however, it opened again, and the men came forth carrying heavy sacks on their shoulders. And when they were all once more in the daylight, they said, Simeli Mountain, shut thyself. And then the mountain closed together, and there was no longer any entrance to be seen, and the 12 went away. When they were quite out of sight, the poor man got down from the tree and was curious to know what really was secretly hidden in the mountain. So he went up to it and said, Simeli Mountain, open. And the mountain opened to him also. Then he went inside, and the whole mountain was a cavern full of silver and gold. And behind lay great piles of pearls and sparkling jewels, heaped up like corn. The poor man hardly knew what to do, and whether he might take any of these treasures for himself or not. But at last he filled his pockets with gold, but he left the pearls and precious stones where they were. When he came out again, he also said, Simeli Mountain, shut thyself, and the mountain closed itself, and he went on home with his borrow. Now he had no more cause for anxiety, but could buy bread for his wife and children with his gold, and wine into the bargain. He lived joyously and uprightly, gave help to the poor, and did good to everyone. When, however, the money came to an end, he went to his brother, borrowed a measure, and held a bushel, and brought himself some more, but did not touch any of the most valuable things. For when the third time he wanted to fetch something, he again borrowed the measure from his brother. The rich man had, however, long been envious of his brother's possessions, and of the handsome way of living which he had set on foot, and could not understand from whence the riches came, and what his brother wanted with the measure. Then he thought of a cunning trick, and covered the bottom of the measure with pitch, and when he got the measure back, a piece of money was sticking to it. He went at once to his brother and asked him, What hast thou been measuring in the bushel with the bushel measure? Corn and barley, said the other. Then he showed him the piece of money and threatened that if he did not tell him the truth, he would accuse him before a court of justice. The poor man then told him everything, just as it had happened. The rich man, however, ordered his carriage to be made ready, drove away, resolved to use the opportunity better than his brother had done, and to bring back with him quite different treasures. When he came to the mountain, he cried, Simeli Mountain, open. The mountain opened, and he went inside it. There lay the treasures all before him, and for a long time he did not know which to clutch first. At length he loaded himself with as many precious stones as he could carry. He wished to carry his burden outside, but as his heart and soul were entirely full of the treasures, he had forgotten the name of the mountain, and cried, Simeli Mountain, open. That, however, was not the right name, and the mountain never stirred, but remained shut. Then he was alarmed, but the longer he thought about it, and the more his thoughts confused themselves, and his treasures were no more of any use to him. In the evening the mountain opened, and the 12 robbers came in. And when they saw him, they laughed and cried out, Bird, we have caught thee at last. Didn't thou think we had never noticed that thou hast been here twice? We could not catch thee then. This third time thou shalt not get out again. We could not catch thee. Then he cried, It was not I, it was my brother. But let beg for his life and say what he would, they cut off his head. And that has been Simeli Mountain from Grimm's Complete Fairy Tales. That's right. Join us again for the next one. I'm not quite sure what it'll be, but it'll be a good or a bad one. We shall see. Sorry, that's probably a little bit loud here. Let me push the microwave. All right, we'll see you then. Stick around. And hey, there's a little link in the description there for an affiliate link there, so you can buy your own copy of Grimm's Complete Fairy Tales. See which ones I didn't read, maybe. Oh, yeah. Do yourself a favor now.